everyone. Really glad to be here. So I'm the founder and CEO of AgShift, and AgShift is a food tech startup, and it's solving many issues when it comes to inspecting the quality of food, to do grading and to do pricing and to make sure that we are buying what we really want to buy. So before AgShift, I was pretty blue. I have worked for large-scale enterprise companies like IBM, VMware. I've done multiple startups. They have all been in mobile space. But I did grow up on a farm. So I'm originally from India, northwest part of India, grew up in a smallholder farming community. And that region is known for growing, well, I'll be biased here, but it's known for growing best mangoes in the world. So I usually tell people that if you could measure wealth using mango as a metric, I would be pretty rich, but I'm not. So the idea is that that farming community, the problems and the difficulties which you face as a small farmholder community, it was always there. It was always there with me. Maybe I was more a part of it. So in 2016, when I was thinking about all the different things, few other events happened. In California right here, we have had droughts. 2016 was pretty key for us. But back in India also, many difficult events had happened in the farming and the growing community and the food supply chain. Now, they were because of many issues. But what really hurts as a technologist is that some of these issues were because of lack of access to something which we consider very basic, like access to weather data, having a transparency so that you can easily measure what is the quality of your produce and you can price it better, right? So when I started looking at this, and it just made sense that it's about time that all the innovation which is happening in Silicon Valley, in our backyard, makes it to food and makes it to ag. So with that notion, and I'll be honest with you, I knew nothing about food system in US or how it works on a global scale. But with that vision that we can bring technology, we can apply it to this space and solve problems which are not difficult, but which are very, very real for all of us. So that's how AgShift started in 2016 with a single notion that can we bring technology and apply it to food challenges. So what exactly is AgShift? We call it Quality Inspection 2.0. So you can see a self-driving car. We are all very, very familiar with it. But all that technology, the innovation which this industry is pushing forward for self-driving cars, how about we applied it to self-grading strawberries? Okay? So the idea is, if I translate it, AgShift is industry's first deep learning platform which can automate the visual inspections, which today in the industry is done by people, by trained experts. And the same solutions, the same innovations which are going in the self-driving cars, we are applying it to train the models on produce, on different commodities. So it doesn't matter whether you throw a fresh strawberry to it or meat or seafood, that's not the point. The point is, as an industry, we have now come to the level where this can be done, where the automation in a big way can be applied to how we inspect food and how we give it a score, how we give it a grade, how we say that how fresh it is going to be, and what is the predictive shelf life of that food. So if I say something is 2.0, then you are going to kill me if I don't tell you what is 1.0, right? So 1.0 is, like I said, it's human dependent. Across the organizations in food supply chain, you have trained people who are called experts or inspectors. They are trained to look at a strawberry or apple or fresh fish, whatever it is, in a particular way and look for different parameters, different patterns, which helps the industry say, okay, this is a grade A, this is a grade B. I'm going to accept this I'm going to reject it. Now, the problem here is that this is done with the human eye, and the results depend on our interpretation, right? So based on how well I am trained as an expert and what my biases are, the results end up being very subjective. And to give you a simple example, if I put a clamshell of strawberry and I gave it to all of you, and I asked you, okay, what is the average color distribution of this berry? What are we going to get? Light red, dark red, bright red, orange, right? This is one parameter. And this is what happens to every single defect which you're trying to look at for that produce. So if you are able to do this, which is rather than depending on the human eye, which is what I mean by visual inspection, what if I took a photograph with any smartphone? We all have a phone right now in this room. Smartphones have a high degree of proliferation. We don't have to worry about that. We take a photograph. So rather than the eye, you're using an image. And rather than the subjective human interpretation, I think this is good, I think this is bad, I think this is moldy, what if we applied this massive neural network and asked it to grade that particular commodity? Okay? When you do that, your results are, rather than making it variable and subjective, it becomes 100% objective and consistent and becomes a standard. Now, where it becomes more fun is that this is how supply chain looks like. So when you imagine a truck full of strawberry leaving the farm, it doesn't just make it to the store from where me and you as a consumer buy it. It goes through many different steps. It goes through a harvester, cooler, shipper, distribution center. Finally, it makes it to the store. Now, at each of this point, imagine this, that there is a different organization, because this is a supply chain. And there are different people who are trained differently within that organization who are grading that same shipment of strawberry. So you can imagine the variability of the results which happens by the time it makes it from the farm to us, right? So now, you know, standardization is great, right? So we will, with the platform which we are building, we are making the neural networks do the grading. So we have removed the bias. We are doing it one way because software only has one eye. So you made it consistent. But here is the number one thing which this does for the entire food supply chain, which is that, so imagine one more time for me. Strawberry is not my favorite fruit, by the way. I'm just using it as an example because that's what we are working on. My favorite fruit, you can guess, is mangoes. So when you have this strawberry and you are able to consistently, okay, so imagine a different scenario. Let's say you're shipping a truck of strawberry from California to Florida, okay? That transit time will take you somewhere between 3 to 4 days. Now, if I could grade consistently and accurately and know the quality of food at point A, and let's say it was not a grade A, it's a grade C, it's a third tier, at that point, if I'm accurate, I can still send it back and sell it in secondary market because it still has some life left. But if it goes all the way to the Florida, to the last point, and there it gets rejected, you can't do anything about it because it's gone. It results in something which should be very close to our hearts, which is massive, massive food wastage. Okay, so that's the part which is very key to me personally, that with the platform, we are giving all other benefits to the industry in terms of consistency, in terms of digitization, in terms of automation, but at the heart of it, we are able to reduce the rates of rejection which is happening in this industry today. And if you look at the data, if you look at food wastage, then one is consumer-related wastage, right? Because whatever we put in our fridge and forget. But the big chunk of it is the rejections which happen at different points in the supply chain. So that's what we are bringing. And one question comes up is why now, right? Why is this the right time to think about it, to think about automation, to think about digitization? Food as an industry has always been around, right? This might be the oldest industry, and it will always be around. As long as we are around, we will eat. So why now? What is so important at this point? And I think a lot of it is driven by us consumers, right? Because we have started caring a lot more about what we are buying, about the level of food quality, level of food safety. That's one part of it. And we as consumers are driving this supply chain organization in a different direction. So one proof point for that is if you went and did a survey of all the retailers today and you ask them what is your number one differentiator, it will not be price. We are not buying food based on price. We are buying food based on quality, based on freshness, and the freshness as it appeals to our eyes. We pick something which is fresh, and that is not going to change. It is basically the way the buying behaviors have changed. So with what we are doing, we are also enabling retailers to be consistent in how they are buying high quality produce so that they can serve their consumers and they can be responsible to manage the claims related to rejections in a much, much better way. So why stop at strawberries, right? When you have something as powerful as deep learning neural networks where billions of dollars are going into research, you can scale it to everything. Anything which your eyes can see today, if you're using your eyes to do inspections, you can use the photograph and the neural networks to automate that, right? That's the power of the technology. It's just that it hasn't been applied to that extent to this industry. So the other example I have here is fresh fish. And as you can see, by taking the photograph of the eye of the fish, you can classify what that fish is and which family it belongs to. And this is one of the #1 error-prone things which happen when it comes to grading of the fish, which is we get the family of the fish wrong, right? So you can look at the eye, you can do the species identification, and then exactly the same as you would do with a fresh produce, you can do it with fresh fish, which is you can look at the discoloration, the scales. But here, there is one more thing which is very important, which I'll be honest with you, we haven't cracked it yet. We are still exploring. The idea is that can you predict the two things? Can you predict the freshness of the fish using the technology? And can you predict the shelf life, which is more applicable to packaged fish using technology, because we keep getting it wrong as far as the human and the visual inspections are concerned. Now, the thing is that I'm just sharing my pain with you because we are still looking at the solution. The idea is that for fish freshness, one thing which you need is you need to smell it. Neural networks cannot smell it, but we are, as an industry, there is a lot of progress being made in different kinds of sensors which can give you similar correlations. So that's what we are exploring, and the same thing goes actually for strawberries too, because one of the things is can you eat the strawberries to figure how sweet it is, but you're actually not trying to taste it, you're trying to figure out the content of sugar in that food, which is an important metric for grading. So the idea is that there is this marriage between sensors, the photographs you take, and the deep learning neural networks. You blend all of that together, and what you get is a single platform which can remove the variabilities and automate everything related to inspection all the way from farm to fork. And that was my last slide. I think I went through it very quickly. But I want to leave you all with a couple of key things, which is that staying right here in Silicon Valley, it has been hard, and I think it's hard for entrepreneurs to switch to food tech and to switch to ag, which is surprising because if you drive an hour in any direction, you are in the heart of farming, right? So a lot of, I would say that a lot of support has to come from the underlying ecosystem and the infrastructure. So when we talked about the incubation program, I think many such programs have to come forward because technology cannot be applied on its own, especially for something so complex as a food supply chain. Entrepreneurs need support from the investment committee, from the engineering committee, from the people in the ecosystem, but we have the building blocks now. So all we need is to bring this infrastructure together and find few more borderline people like me, and they will push this whole thing forward, and we will have a lot of solutions which are real challenges for us in food ecosystem. So with that thought, I'll leave all of you. Thank you so much. Thanks.